Yalan mı?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining the live. This is Maha. I'm the owner of White Cafe in Dubai, and I'm an alumni of Cordon Bleu, Le Cordon Bleu, Istanbul. I have had a great experience studying there. So today I'm going to show you one of my recipes, which I actually use in my cafe itself. And it's a great recipe to do at home. It's extremely easy. If you want to use it for your business as well, it's really easy. So are we ready to start with the recipe? I'm just going to start. I hope that I will be sharing with you recipe towards after the end of the live, and you can see all the steps and procedures that we're going to do. So let's start with our the recipe is called Gooey Chocolate Brownie Caramel Tart. We're going to be starting with the tart base, which is called sablé. It's going to be chocolate. So we should start with the recipe. First thing, I've scaled all my ingredients here. It's very important to keep your ingredients scaled beforehand. And I have a message here. Yeah, so the recipe has been shared to you. You can see in your messages section, the recipe is available there. I have scaled all my ingredients. So this is butter. Then I have the dry ingredients, all sieved here, almond powder, sugar, salt, flour, and cocoa powder. Then I have here, the sugar is separate and the eggs are separate. So we're going to start with soft butter. The butter texture should be soft. It should not be melting. It should not be very hard, but it should be soft so that our dough is going to mix properly. I'm going to be starting with putting the butter with my dry ingredients, all sieved together. Some people, they do it with, first they do it with sugar and butter, but I just do everything together. I'm just going to make it homogeneous. Half of the sugar I put now, and later I will put. The recipe that I have shared with you guys is able to produce about 40 pieces of tarts. But I'm here doing one, I've made the recipe half, and I'm going to do it like slightly smaller quantity. So as you can see, we start on slow speed. Never start on high speed with flour and cocoa powder. It's all going to go out. So we start with the slow speed. And we mix it until it's all combined. We have to make sure that our butter is well combined with our dry ingredients. Otherwise, we will see the chunks of butter later on in the dough, which is not good. After it's going to turn into like sandy texture, I'm going to add my eggs and my sugar. Since we're doing it at slow speed, so it takes some time. I add my sugar as well, all the dry ingredients at once. If any one of you cannot see me properly or hear me properly, please write it there so I can listen to you. I'm just going to open it. As you can see that I have some dough on the side, so it's very important to mix from the down. Take everything from the down. So that it's mixed properly. Again, we started on slow speed. At this point, you can increase the speed a little bit for it to. Now the texture is like sandy. It's like all combined together. The butter is like really mixed together very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding my egg. Slowly, slowly, I add my egg. I've increased the speed so that it will all combine together. There is very less quantity of egg in the dough to not give it eggy taste. That is why it takes some time to come together. I will mix it until it's all homogeneous and one has come together, all of it at once. Okay, so I will show you guys how does the dough looks like. It has all. This is what we're looking for, the texture. It formed like a dough. What we're gonna do is we remove it. We do not overmix the dough here on the table. Everything is well combined together, so we don't need to mix it again anyway. Just remove this. What I'm gonna do is to be able to shape my dough, I need to rest it in the chiller for some time. Can I have the thing, please? I just take a rolling pin, just flatten it down in order to be able to fill it in the chiller for 25 minutes. I always make my dough one day ahead of time. So the next day it's very good to, work with the dough. The butter is set, everything is set. I just take the cling film. So make sure there is no air passing by your dough and you wrap it properly. Now this will go to the fridge for like about the chiller for about 25 to 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we will prepare the other things so that it has rested well and we can play with the dough. Meanwhile, the dough is resting. Let's start making our caramel, which is very important part of the recipe. So it's chocolate caramel gooey brownie. I'm gonna do my caramel recipe now. The recipe is scaled already. I have a question here, which I'm gonna answer. See, we can use the dough without putting in the chiller, but it's very fragile to, to use without putting in the chiller. It's important for the dough to rest, because if you don't rest it and you bake it directly, it's going to shrink. So you need to give it time to rest properly so that everything is well settled, fermentation has developed, and then you can bake it properly. If you don't chill it, it's going to shrink all together, and then it will not be a nice outcome. Anyway, people do use it. It's not that you cannot use it, but it's preferred not to use it, please. I'm going to start my caramel recipe now. So I have scaled the cream. Again, the recipe that I have given you is enough for 40 pieces of tart. You can make 40 pieces of tart or even more, because the quantity of caramel that goes in tart is not too much. But I have scaled the recipe and I have reduced it according to what I need to do today. So we're going to quickly, our cream is here. What we need is one fresh vanilla pod. I'm always using vanilla pod. You can also use vanilla liquid. We cut it open. And then you scrape out all the vanilla. And you add your vanilla here. Since I use the half recipe, so I'm going to use half vanilla only. I'm not going to take all of the vanilla. And we heat our cream. Later on, we will melt our caramel, but first what we need to do is we need to heat our cream. This please. I hope you can see it. The vanilla is added. What I like to enhance the flavor with some more liquid vanilla that I'm going to use just by my eyes. In this recipe, like 10 grams of vanilla liquid. So if you combine the both, it's going to be much better. This is soft caramel. So soft caramel, we don't cook it. We cook it until only 107 degrees. So even after it's in the fridge, it's still melting. So this one is not cooked until 120. See, for the caramel, this is toffee caramel. So you can use either brown sugar, you can use white sugar, you can do caramel with any sugar, even coconut sugar you can use, but there has to be, you have to see what kind of cream, how much quantity you are going to use, but you can do the caramel with. Now it's, pastry has modernized, so people are using even low fat sugar. They're using the sugar which has like stevia to make caramel. So yes, you can use palm sugar. We're going to boil the cream and then we put it on the side. So that later when we add it to our caramel, there will be no temperature shock. The caramel will not have like hard texture formed at the bottom. Then this should be heated enough to be able to add it to the caramel. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can ask always. The caramel, you can use it for, see, it's sugar. Sugar always have a long life. Caramel can stay up to 1 month in your chiller or room temperature because, sugar is a preservative. It's used as a preservative. Now you can see it's boiled. That's all. I just needed to heat it. I'm going to reduce the temperature of my induction. Yeah. So in the recipe, you can see that we have glucose. First, we need to add the glucose and we need to melt our glucose before we start adding the sugar to make the caramel. Glucose is important. It's going to give our caramel like this liquid texture that you want. And for long life, you can use inverted sugar, glucose always as a preservative. It's hard to melt glucose. That is why we first melt it. Can we? Yes, definitely. It's the same thing almost. It plays the same role. Corn syrup and glucose is the same thing. You can replace it. It's just a kind of a sugar. You can also use inverted sugar. It's used as a preservative just to give it, to preserve it for a longer time, to make the life longer. Glucose has started melting. I will just make it near so you guys can see it better. This is caramel spatula. Okay, once you see glucose is melted, you start by adding a little amount of sugar, not all together at once, little by little, so that all the sugar is melted properly. And you don't use your, make sure that whenever you are making caramel, the spatula that you're using is, you can check that how much heat it can bear. For me, it says up to 200 degrees Celsius, and I need the caramel only at 107. So for me, it's not gonna burn. But you have to make sure always what kind of spatula you're using to make caramel, because again, this is rubber, it's like plastic, it can also melt. Everything is fine. So now I see my caramel, my sugar has started changing color. I start mixing it. You don't leave the sugar like this. If you leave it, it's going to start burning. So as soon as my sugar starts melting, I'm going to keep adding more and more. But I need to make sure that the first quantity of the sugar has melted properly. I'm using the induction on a medium speed. If I turn it too much, it can burn the sugar very quickly. I even reduce now. So it's changing the color. I will add a little bit more again. And I will keep mixing it. I'm letting my sugar melt properly before I keep adding the new one. Scrape it from the sides so that it doesn't burn. I have a question here. I will try my best. Actually, yes, definitely. You can also check my page. I will write my page link on the chat. You can follow me there to see. Now the sugar has melted properly. Before now I can add another amount of sugar. And I mix it again. You can add all the sugar at once, but then it's very difficult for if you have a huge quantity of sugar, some of it will be melted, some of it will change color quickly. I scrape from the sides. You can see that it's melting. Can we replace glucose? Yes, the questions are. Now we add the remaining amount again. So 4 times I'm adding the sugar slowly. We have the butter ready for the recipe, but this comes towards the end because we don't want to cook it. We want the liquid texture of the caramel. So, and this caramel recipe can be used in anything that you want to use. Caramel, it's toffee sauce with sticky date pudding inside the your cakes or whatever. This recipe is universal, can be used for many purposes. Caramel is again melted. I will add more. So all the sugar I've added already. So if you will add your cream too early and your caramel is still light color, it will be more sweet. So I make sure that my caramel has a good color. It's not burnt, but at the same time, it has to be dark color so that it's not too sweet. I make sure the sugar is all melted. If it's lighter, the lighter the color, for example, this is yellow color. It means that it still has sugar, which is not melted. You keep mixing it. Can I have a bowl and hand mix it? Just you keep stirring it. You keep stirring it. Make sure that it's not burnt. You keep stirring it. The color will slowly go darker. For example, for one recipe, I'm using dark sugar, also dark brown sugar. It also gives me like a really dark color. But of course, taste is going to be slightly different. You can use dark brown sugar. You can use light brown sugar. It's going to give caramel a different color. But even if you keep mixing it, it keeps getting darker. But you have to make sure that it's not burning. You reduce the temperature, keep mixing. The caramel is getting darker. I need more dark color. I don't want yellow color because anyway, when I add my cream, the color will come lighter. I will remove all the heat so that it's not burning. High temperature can make caramel. But you cannot cook your caramel on high temperature because it will burn. Yeah, you can cook it. You can keep cooking it unless until you see the color has reached properly. So I will do like a trial. I will put this one dot and I will see my caramel color. Still a little bit dark I need. It's not yellow, but it's fine now. Condensed milk. Yeah, but this one will not be bitter because we're not burning it. We're just slowly at very low temperature. Okay, now it's the perfect brown color. So sugar has melted. What we do is we increase a little bit temperature. At this point, we don't need this one. I need the jug. Not this. And we start slowly adding our melted cream. Be very careful with this one. Start mixing it. Very slowly you add. And you increase the temperature at this point. Deglaze your caramel. It's really nice smell. It's like toffee. Slowly we will add. We make sure that we don't add all at once so that it's properly mixed together and melted. We keep stirring it. Right amount, right size of your pans also depends how your caramel. If you have too less quantity and if you're using a very big bowl, it will burn, of course. Spatula, please. I make sure I scrape all the vanilla because it's very expensive. I don't want to overcook my caramel. Just when it's slightly boiled, I can set the temperature with thermometer gauge. 107. 107 is the temperature that I need. It's right now it's 104, 105, 106, 107. We remove it from the heat and we add our butter. At this point, we will add the butter. The butter will be melted properly and our caramel will stay liquid. After we cool it down, it will still be liquid. It's toffee. It's more like toffee caramel. It's not normal caramel. It's toffee caramel sauce, which can be used in many things. It has vanilla, it has butter, some glucose. This is not enough. Bigger. So now you can see this is the texture of the sauce that I'm looking at. It's going to be thick after some time. It's really liquid. Why? Because it's very hot. So our caramel is done. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to blend it and put it just for it to be able to mix the butter, everything properly together. I'm going to put it and blend it and put it in my container, steel container, for it to cool down a little bit, and I will put it in the chiller for some time. And meanwhile, we can do our brownie recipe. So this one also goes to the chiller. Tart is also in the chiller. Now we can start with our brownie. Where's the 1 to 5? And so I have scaled all my recipe here. I need a big bowl mixing this and P1 to 5 and cocoa butter. So this brownie recipe is really nice. I have a cocoa powder separate, which we can mix together, but make sure that you always sieve it. Sieving is very important. I'm going to combine my dried bigger than this, right? Whisk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to melt my, I have a question which I'm going to answer first. Yes, exactly. I'm blending it sauce to not make the air inside. So when you blend it with a hand blender, the air will all come out. So I need to make sure there are no bubbles because I need to preserve it for the longer time. If there are bubbles, it can destroy quickly. It will not last longer. The taste might change. So, you know, and then I will wrap it with cling film with contact and I will put it in the chiller. Every mixture, every sauce that I make sure that I don't leave them with air bubbles. I take out the air bubbles with hand blender. It's very easy to do. You just hand blend it and you take it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make for my brownie recipe now, I will melt my P125 chocolate and my butter, cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is to give really nice dark chocolate effect. I will mix it together and then I will show you what we're going to do. P125 and not like this at 40 degrees. No, this is not the ground. P125 and you take P125 chocolate. So I was telling you why I need P125 is that it gives really nice dark cacao paste. P125 is made of cacao butter and only cocoa. There is no sugar in it. 100 grams, just put 50 grams. And 50 grams. And mix it together. I will quickly melt my chocolate and cocoa butter in the oven. You can do it on a double boiler as well, but melt it in the chocolate and the oven. With the cocoa butter, you can melt it in the oven and a double boiler. How you're going to do a double boiler is just put water here and a pan with water down and a pan with both the mixtures and you just melt it slowly and it will be melted all together. Guys, give me cocoa butter and chocolate melted together, please. Whatever I'm saying. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can ask, please. I will show you this. This is the caramel, how to take out the air bubbles. You put it in a deep container, anything you can use. I'm going to use a jug, any deep container. Give me fresh eggs also, 1, 2 eggs. So what I'm going to do is, on the slow speed, I start. So it has bubbles inside. I'm just going to remove my bubbles slowly. You need to turn the container. Make sure you keep your blender down the products so the air does not come inside. Slowly you remove this. So the air bubbles are all out. We just put a cling film on top of this small container. So I make sure that my product is touching till brownie recipe quickly. Lim has it. With this one, we're gonna put it in the 50. For our brownie, we're only going to use the dark brown sugar. It's more gooey. Is there any alternative? Because it's not easily available. You can use dark chocolate. So you can use P125 is more than 80%. You can use any dark chocolate. Like you can use 60%, you can use 70% dark chocolate, whatever brand you want. So basically the purpose of it is to give the cacao taste. So it does not have sugar inside and the brownie will be really nice. It will not be very sweet because we have sugars in it. So it will give you a really nice taste. And also if we're going to use normally what I do is that I use pasteurized eggs. But this one I'm going to use a whole fresh egg. Always for the cookies and my brownie recipe, I use fresh egg. It always gives a better gooey texture. So this is cocoa butter. It looks like this. It's just the butter from the cacao bean. When it's roasted, there is the butter which comes out. It's directly from the cocoa bean. I will melt it here. Melt it in the oven, please. And cut walnuts and white chocolate. 50 grams, 50 grams. If you have any questions, meanwhile, you can ask. I prefer to melt my butter and chocolate separate because butter will take time and chocolate will be melted fast. So chocolate has tendency to burn. So this one you melt separate and then you will combine both together. You have to melt both at 40 degrees so that it's tempered. You do not exceed 40 degrees. I need a bowl, please. And fresh egg, one whole. In the recipe that I'm giving you, there is more eggs. I've made the recipe half according to what I want today. So that is why I'm using one egg only. My butter is almost melted. See, the butter is not burnt. You can directly melt it on the induction or your burner or whatever you have, gas burner or fire burner or electric burner. Chocolate is melted. Please blend. Big bowl. Can I have a big bowl? Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is in the bowl, I will take sugar and eggs and I will whisk it with the hands. For this recipe, you don't need machine because you don't want too much air. I don't want it to come up. There is no baking powder. There is nothing. It's just gooey brownie. So I just want my sugar and my egg to be well together and then I will add my chocolates. So what I do is that I add my brown sugar. Where was the scaled one? 100 grams. 100 grams of brown sugar and then I will add the egg in it. Brown sugar, light brown sugar, dark brown sugar, whatever you want to use, you can use. There is some. I'm just trying to make it. Then I add my whole egg. And my chocolate, it's melted. You want to try? Please drink, it's okay. So you mix it properly. There should be no bubbles or there should be no lumps of sugar inside it. This is my chocolate and my butter. Combine together. Make sure it's properly melted, both of them. Should be 40 degrees. 40, normally 35 to 40 degrees should not feel very hot on the bottom of your hand. So it will not burn our egg or cook our egg. If we go above 40 degrees, it will cook the egg inside this or burn it. So that is why the temperature is important. Take the tissue paper, clean this area. It's all melted together. Clean my station. I make sure I combine all the mixture. Mix it again. It should look something like this. Then what you do is you start adding your dry ingredients. They're both steeped together. I need to mix them properly. Slowly, you start adding your dry ingredients one by one. And just fold them. Do not overmix this. Just fold them together. This one, you fold them. You add more. I have a cleaning cloth here. So we clean our station. Your mixture should look something like this, very thick, not very liquid. This is going to be very fuzzy. Should all mix together properly. It's already starting to set because it has cocoa butter and the temperature of the room is very cold. Now what I'm going to do is I remove everything from here using a spatula. I can always melt this mixture later. Just make sure you remove all the product. This is my pecan nuts and my white chocolate, which is mixed together. Now at the end, I will just fold it in. So you just fold your white chocolate and pecan or walnuts, whatever you want to use. Any nuts you can use in the recipe. Okay. This is done. The brownie recipe is done. The tart shell is done. We're gonna now take out the tart dough. We're gonna roll it, shape it, and we will bake everything together. Put in the piping bag and melt it. Can we use double boiler to melt? You can. Can we temper the mixture or wait? No, if it goes up to 40 degrees, if it exceeds the temperature, you need to wait for it to come down. No need to temper it because cocoa butter is there. It already means it's going to be tempered. It's going to set it already. So you don't have to temper it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my dough. Where's my dough? And I will start to roll my dough and I will. So this is my mold. I'm going to use this side of the mold. Back side of the mold. You can use it here as well, but I feel like this gives better shape. So I just turn them upside down and I use them. What I do is that I grease them with a grease paper. I will just have these here. You can apply butter, steamer or whatever, any grease, oil, butter. And you keep on the side. Now, this is the dough which has rested already. This dough has less butter in it, so it's very fragile. It keeps cracking, but you have to make sure that, you know, when you are molding it, you do it properly. You can always combine it with your hands and apply some heat on top in order to melt it more. I will roll it inside the baking paper. It will not stick on my rolling pin. Much easier for me. Normally, I have a dough sheeter and it's much easier for my business to be in fast operation that we use a dough sheeter. So it's long time I haven't used rolling pin, but you can also use a rolling pin because at home, I'm sure you cannot have a dough sheeter like that. 3 mm, it has to be 3 mm pin. Oh, we apply the pressure. Raman, can you remove the machine, please? Change the direction so it's open at both sides. You flatten it. So apply the pressure on the center and then you make it flatten towards the ends. We're gonna make it until 3 mm thickness. Make sure both the sides are equal so you keep rotating it. So what I normally do is, see, when I'm rolling it, it's going to go like this. So normally I take out some and I apply on this corner. So it will be all equal. And then I take out some from the sides. Then you apply on the sides again. I want to go 3 mm. It's still not 3 mm. Still thick. A little bit more. So I check from everywhere. It has to be equal. It's not up and down. One side is not bigger than the other. So I apply the equal amount of pressure and keep repeating it. So this is the thickness that I'm looking for. I will take my cutter, which is 10 cm, because in order to, this one is 8 cm, so I need a bigger one. When I will put it like this, it should cover all of them. This is my cutter. I'm going to cut like 4 pieces. Alumni. And then what I'm going to do is, just nicely, I take this. If you see that it's much thicker, you can roll it even again. Then I take my tart shell. And then what I do is, I make sure that everywhere it's equal. See, 10 cm is even, it will leave some of the gaps here. You can go bigger. Make sure that all the sides are equal. I took a stick that I normally use for cake decorating, and then what I do is I make the texture as according to the mold. I push it in so it forms like a flower. It should be like this. It should be covered like this everywhere. If you see some cracks, you can always cover it. And then what you should do is pick the holes so the dough will not rise up in the oven. Pick the holes here. And you rest it in the chiller for another 20 minutes before you bake it. Again, same reason, if you don't rest it in the chiller, the dough will shrink in the oven. And it will not be nice. It will come even much smaller. I will show you one more. So 3 mm is the thickness. If you feel like it's more, you can again roll it out. And you just put it here. Give it the shape. Make sure every side is equal. And what you do is press the dough like this. It's like a flower, and then you pick the holes. You can use anything. This is something I use here for my cake decorating. So this is how it should look like, all sides equal, and then you have the proper shape. Now what I'm gonna do is I have already baked the previous one to not waste more time or to not take more time. So I will show you how they come after out of the oven. Can I have a tray? Can I have this tray? So after baking, it looks like this. The baking temperature is mentioned on the recipe. You can check it in the oven. I use a fan oven. So the temperature is really nice. It's all over. Then I put some humidity as well to make my dough a little bit soft. This is what it should look like. So you bake the dough. You take it out. Now we start constructing this thing. So what we did is brownie. Please. Okay. So this is the brownie mixture that we made before. The tart is half baked. It's mentioned in the recipe. Now what we do is we pipe our brownie. We're gonna bake it again. Halfway only to the mold. A very fudgy mixture. So now this is filled, our tart is filled. It will go in the oven and I will bake the brownie. After it's baked, then we will reconstruct it. Do you have a baked one? Okay, just bake it. So it will take some time. Meanwhile, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our ganache, which is for piping. Then I can again hold it and keep it in my chiller for as long as 1 week, or I can freeze it for up to a month and I can keep using it. As long as it's properly kept. But here I make bigger quantities. This is the small quantity that I did. So what we're gonna do is just strip it down again. And we paint it and we keep it. I packed it nicely. Now I can keep it in the chiller for as long as up to 1 week. And then I will freeze it if I want, and I will defrost it one night before, whenever I want to use. And then the next day I will shape it and I will bake it. Can I do the ganache recipe? So now we're going to do the ganache that we have to pipe on the top. So the ganache has to be done 1 day before, because you need to, it's a whipped ganache. You need to whip it. In order to whip it, you need to set your temperature properly, your cream properly 24 hours before. So it's set and the next day it's able to whip up. This one I will not throw, I can use it again. So we don't throw anything, we just clean the stage. So now we're gonna do again the ganache, Jawara ganache. If you have any questions, I will send you through the ganache recipe, which is just at the bottom. I don't know if there is whipped ganache with Jawara, and it's just cream and the chocolate. So you melt the chocolate and you melt the cream and you combine it together. So this is the cream that I have. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna melt it, heat it. It's 1 by 1. So for example, the ratio is 1 on 1. So for example, 50% of the cream, 50 grams of the cream, 50 grams of the chocolate, 100 grams of the cream, 100 grams of the chocolate. That's it. It's just that simple, basic recipe, and it can be used anywhere inside your cakes or piping on the top or wherever you want. I will just melt it. And I have my chocolate here. It's 40% milk chocolate. You can use 35% as well. So I prefer using milk chocolate if you have. If you don't want too much sweet, you can use a dark chocolate as well. It doesn't matter, whatever you're using. I will write the recipe of the ganache. Like, milk chocolate. So I can see my participants. Just heat it enough that when you put it on this, it will melt automatically. I've made the ganache before. This is just to show you, but normally, as I told you, that ganache has to be done 24 hours before or at least 12 hours. So you should do it 12 hours before you do your recipe because in order to be able to whip it and pipe it nicely, you need it to set. The cream and the chocolate should be set. Otherwise, it will not whip up. It will stay liquid. And see that I'm melting my cream. The more you heat the cream, the more it destroys the texture of the cream. So I just heat it, not boil it, and then in 3 times we put it on top of the chocolate. So 1 time we put it. Then I will add another part. You need to leave your melted cream on top of your chocolate for a little while so that it melts properly. And you stir it to mix it. And while it's melting. If you want to preserve your ganache for a long time, you should add like 5 grams of corn syrup, inverted sugar, trimoline, so it will long laster. Sorry, last longer. So this is another remaining. The chocolate is melted completely. Once the chocolate is melted, what I'm going to do, see the chocolate is melted. So I think what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to blend it so that it's combined together properly. And then I will leave it in the chiller for cover it with cling film again, contact, and I will leave it in the chiller again. 12 hours. And remove the air bubble. And then lift the bubble. Done. Later. So my ganache is done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer it to a container and I will chill it for 24 hours. But I make a ganache before already to not, to do the recipe quickly. So I will see if my tart is baked. I will bring it now. Take care now. How much time? I will show you the ganache looks like this the next day. It's all set, if you can see. And it tastes really nice. 40% chocolate, it's not very sweet. And you can see the texture of my ganache. I'm gonna whip it now. So when I whip it, the texture is so nice to be able to pipe it nicely. It's hard, you can use it inside anything, any fillings. Even I use it sometimes inside my croissants or anything. And then we are gonna whip it. I'm just waiting for my tarts to be baked. We are almost ending our recipe. Now what we have to do is just assemble everything. Everything is done. Just when the tart comes out of the oven, we assemble it and then we are done with the recipe. If you have any questions, please, you can ask me in the chat. So my tart is baked. It's done. I will show you how it looks like after baking. So this is what it looks like. It smells so good. It's chocolate tart, chocolate brownie. Normally I let it cool down, but here I have to be a little bit quick. So what I'm gonna do is I will show you now the caramel that we made before. We're just gonna pipe it on top of this and we rest it in the freezer so that it sets down and we can pipe easily on the top of. So just put your piping bag like this. And then you can put your caramel inside. I'm going to go in, remove the air. Take it like this, cut it. Cut it from the tip, just like this much. And now I will start piping my caramel. Caramel should be liquid. So it's everywhere. I think you guys can see I filled my caramel until the top of the tart. This is very hot now. So I just filled it like this. So this is tart shell, there is baked brownie, then this is caramel on the top. Now I'm going to put it in the freezer for the caramel to set so I can pipe it on, I can pipe on it easily. What I do is I take my ganache. For this recipe, I'm going to use a whipped ganache. So whipped ganache is always, you make a normal ganache and then you just whip it. So I take some ganache here, whatever I need. It's set to 12 hours at least. So I put here, that's enough. More. I will not over whip it. I don't want it to be over whipped. Just to be able to like soft, very soft. So this is the texture of the ganache that I'm looking for. Soft peaks. It's set already, it's not coming out. You can see it's very soft, it's shiny. This is the texture what I want. I will transfer it to the piping bag. The same spatula that I'm going to use. My ganache, because it's set properly, 24 hours, the consistency is really nice. I'm taking this long nozzle, this one, to pipe my ganache on the top. You can use any nozzle, whatever design you want, whatever you prefer, it can be done. So this is now done. I've switched my ganache in the piping bag and removed all the air. The piping consistency is nice. This is my nozzle. This is my ganache, which is ready. The recipe of the frosting, I've written it here, 100 grams of cream and 100 grams of milk chocolate, 40%. That's the recipe of the frosting. So just give me a minute. I will quickly grab my tray and you can see, if you want to see the consistency of the ganache frosting, I will show you here how it has to be. So this is easily to pipe. It's very easy. You can just pipe however you want. I have my chart available. So what I'm going to do is normally this should be set. Your caramel has to be really set. I'm just going to tie a knot here so it doesn't come out. The caramel should be frozen, but right now I don't have time, so I'm not feeling it. It's okay, even like this. I'm going to pipe it like as a flower. But make sure your caramel is not hot so the ganache will not melt. Then I give it some base here so I can properly pipe my flour. As you can see that it's almost done and we end it like this. So this is piped. This is how our tart looks like. What I'm going to do is cacao crunch. I will just put the cocoa crunch on the top of it. It's ready. The recipe was very easy to use. Just few things you need to make before a day ahead of time so that it's set properly. I have cocoa nibs. I take some cocoa nibs. This is directly coming from the cocoa bean. It's very dark. There's no sugar. And I just add it on top of this one. So the tart is ready. I'm going to cut it open for everyone to see how it looks like. I have my knife here. So this is how we present it. The order comes, you can keep it on the display, you can do whatever. So this is how it should look like, and it tastes really nice. It's really nice. The taste is amazing. Trust me on this. Make this recipe. The taste is really nice. I will just cut it open. A little bit fragile. It's okay. The tart is not set. It's just out of the oven. This is just to show you the texture of from the inside. So you can see the caramel is soft. It's melting. The brownie is down, and it's so nice. And this is, you know, the dessert that will take you to your childhood because of the caramel mess inside. Soft caramel. We kept it soft because we don't want hard, so it keeps coming out as a liquid. So this was the recipe, which is done. Can you type and give me one more? So the recipe is done. If you have any questions, you can ask me before I will end the chat. Thank you so much. Thank you, Karim. Thank you, Adnan. Yeah, it looks good, and the recipe is so nice to do. I just made it quick, and I hope everything went well. If you have any questions, anything, I think Rima, they can see the recipe later, right?
Yes, we shared the recipe a couple of times, but if they still need it, they can email us and we will send them the recipe.
Perfect, perfect. So I'm going to share a picture with all of you. How does it look like? I hope everything was clear and smooth. If you have any questions, you can comment down the post. And where I am so honored to be able to to be able to be a part of this alumni, Coded Blue alumni, Delicious alumni. Thank you. I'm honored that you guys had me on board. And my culinary journey, my pastry journey started from Lee Cordon Bleu. All my basics that I learned for pastry is from this institute. And I'm really, really thankful for them to teach me all the basic techniques that I'm today. I'm at this point where I have my own business. I run my own business. I teach people. Now I'm at that point. So I think this is the end of your series, which is going to end with me. So it's really nice that I'm the one. I'm lucky that I'm the one to be able to end it. I think they have some questions. Kindly guide us about the famous frosting. The frosting it was nothing. It was just like, as I showed you, the frosting is just the ganache. It's whipped and you just pipe it, and that's all. I wrote the recipe there. I will share it with you guys again down the post. You can comment down the post and I will share it.
Thank you so much, Maha, for participating. It was a lovely event, and I think it was a very nice ending to our series. We hope to see you in the future again here in Istanbul or maybe online in other events. Thank you so much for participating and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Take care.